Hello, my name is Bing, aka Eclipse from Crybaby Raiders, and this is part 4 of my raiding guide. Today we're going to be talking about improving your game. Now, I'm not going to talk about specific encounters, this is just about general playing your spec better. I'm going to start off by just giving some of my thoughts as a raid leader. Then we'll talk about how you find out where you need to improve. And then finally we'll talk a bit about how you actually go about making those improvements once you've identified those places. Now, a lot of people think that practice is all it takes to improve, and sadly that's not true. If you're doing something wrong, then all that practice is going to get you is you're going to get better at doing the wrong thing. So first of all, you need to find out where can I improve, and then secondly you need to do something about it. How do you find out where you need to improve? Well, firstly, you need to find out what you should be doing and what the difference is between that and what you actually are doing. And we're going to do that with the help of icy veins, Warcraft logs, and a very helpful raider of mine who has volunteered for this. Now, if you've never used logs before, then head on over to warcraftlogs.com and then enter your name into the box. And this is what Crybaby Raiders uses for our logs. And what this does is it takes all the logs of all the fights that you've been on, and it shows you how you've performed compared to everyone else playing the same spec on the same day. And it gives you a number. So 85% means that on February the 18th, Prepo did more DPS than 85% of Shadow Priests on Gruul. And you can select the fight up here. This number, I don't want you to pay too much attention to it right now. I'm not going to give you a target number to aim for. I think the first thing to do is actually to establish what's your baseline. Where do you expect to be on the average fight compared to everyone else playing your spec? And to do that, look at this medium percentile on the right here. And just go through all the fights and look at this number here, and it should be pretty consistent. This guy, it's got 59 here, Blast Furnace 66%. If we look at Beast Lord, 60%. So he's averaging around 60%. That's where I expect him to be on the average boss. And so what that tells me is that on Gruul, he's actually doing better than he is on other bosses. Whereas if we look at something like Iron Maidens, then this tells me he's doing worse on Iron Maidens than I would expect him to. And this is important because it's, are you doing better or worse than what you normally do? It's not about what other people are doing. You know, if he played as well on Iron Maidens as he did on Gruul, then this would say about 70%. Now, as it happens, I know why this is low. It's because we actually stop DPS on the bosses in order to get a nice execute phase. So I'm not going to pay too much attention to this. And the other fight where he's a little bit low is Flamebender. And here we can see there are a couple of fights where it looks like he's died mid-fight, and another one where it's just sort of, yeah, about where he is, maybe a bit low. I'm just going to show you a couple of examples from Flamebender where we've established that our raider is a little bit lower than where we'd expect him to be. Now, he's playing Auspicious Spirits sub-spec here. So I look on Icy Veins for what we should be doing there. Single target rotation doesn't change. Multi-target, it says I'm attempting to maintain Shadow Word Pain on all targets and Vampiric Touch as many as possible. So Shadow Word Pain should always be up. And for the rest of the rotation, I know that the tier 6 talent should be at the top. And what I see from looking at this, first of all, I can see that the Shadow Word Pain uptime is quite low, which is crucial for this sub-spec. And in fact, it's falling off the boss quite a lot, which shouldn't be happening. Secondly, I notice that Shadow Word Death is pretty low for a fight with lots of ads, so that could be higher. And finally, Cascade usage, it's only at 7 uses in a 5-minute 40 fight, when it's on a 25-second cooldown. So we've got three things that we know that can be improved: shadow word pain up time when there are multiple targets, shadow word death usage, especially when there are ads, and cascade. So how do you actually improve these things? The first thing to do is to look at the UI. Are we making it as easy as possible to deal with these parts of the rotation? Let's look at dot uptime first. So as we saw, it's not so much when there's one target, but when there are multiple targets, his dot uptime drops off. And we can see here, you can see the dots on the primary target, on the target frame, but you can't see the dot durations on any of the other targets, which means they can fall off and you won't know about it. Now, there are two ways that people commonly use to track multi-dots. First is using an add-on like tidy plates, which shows the dot durations on the nameplates themselves, and then you can just click on them, the nameplate, when you see the dot time run out. Secondly, you can have one of several spec-specific add-ons that actually show you a stack of all of your dots on various targets and the durations. I don't like that so much because it's more difficult to find out what target you actually need to click on with the dot that's about to run out. So I would recommend tidy plates here to track multi-dots. Secondly, shadow word death. Now this is only usable below 20%. And we can see he can see the target percent on his primary target. So when that reaches 20%, he knows he can start hitting it. But on other targets, he doesn't actually see what the percentage is. So you can kind of judge from the health bar, but it's quite hard to actually know when you can shadow word death them. Now the Blizzard default UI actually does allow you to display the target health percent in the bar, and I would strongly suggest turning that on if you're a spec with executes, mainly a range spec, but melee as well, just so you can change the targets and get those executes in. It's a bigger deal for Shadow because you actually generate resources for it, and therefore it's going to be a DPS increase even if that's not the primary burn target. You're going to get more damage on your primary target as a result. Finally, Cascade, using Cascade on cooldown. I look around and I can see Cascade is on Shift R, which, to be honest, when you're looking at dots on the top left of your UI, you're looking across the whole of the universe to see is Cascade off cooldown. It's really quite awkward to track. So there are a number of ways you can do it. The simplest way, if you like using Blizzard default UIs, is to move all of your cooldowns to a similar place. So here he's not using the 7 slot on his main action bar. He could move Cascade to 7 and then rebind an alternative keybind for 7 so that he can still use Shift R to activate that. It just makes it easier to look at because then he'll have all his cooldowns in one place on his UI. So I'm quickly going to show you for comparison how I dealt with these problems on my Shadow UI. As you can see, I use tidy plates, which shows all the dots I have on every target above the nameplates. I have tidy plates configured to show the HP percent as a number, and that means that I can easily switch to a target when it's in death range and just generate some orbs like that. And I have my Cascade cooldown at the same place that I've got all my other cooldowns, so I can easily tell when it's available. Okay, so far we've decided that we do want to improve. We've identified a few places where we can improve, either from logs or just from actual things you notice during raids. And then we've made some changes in the UI to hopefully help us improve. The last step is to actually track your progress and make sure that you are actually improving. And this is really important. You don't want to just make some changes and then hope for the best. You want to keep an eye on things week on week to make sure, yes, I am getting better. My shadow word pain uptime on the boss is improving. My shadow word death usage is improving, etc. And once you get into the habit of that, it becomes almost second nature. But if you don't get into the habit of that, it can actually be quite difficult to actually improve, because you'll just end up doing the same things that you did every week. So I hope that's helped, and I hope all of you will go and have some ideas about where you can be actually improving yourself, and hopefully making yourself a better candidate to be first on the progress list picks. I'll see you next time.